everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Lottie and today I'm doing the if I could only keep 10 books tag. I saw Becca from the Becca Fowles video of this tag. It was quite a few months ago now actually, and I've been wanting to do it for ages, but I just didn't get around to doing it, so I'm doing it now. I'll leave a link to her video in the description if you would like to go and check that out. I really recommend that you do because she is fabulous. Yeah, so today I'm doing the if I could only keep 10 books tag, and basically this is just a list of books that I guess you could say are like my favourite books, or these are the books that if I could only keep 10 out of my entire collection, these would be the 10 I choose. It's really hard to narrow down just to 10 books because I thought I had my list together and then I'd be like, oh, what about that one and what about that one, but I have chosen my 10 and I'll talk you through my reasons for picking them. I've kind of put them in a bit of an order as well. I guess my least favourite to my most favourite, even though I love all of these books that I'm going to talk about today. Just as a little honourable mention, because I wanted to put it on the list but I didn't. We're gonna just mention Heartstopper by Alice Oseman because I definitely say this is one of my favourite books of all time, but I guess I could get away with not having it as a physical copy because you can read it online. So just a little honourable mention for Heartstopper. Didn't quite make the list that I've got here for you, but yeah, you guys know I loved this. Like, I just devoured all 4 volumes of it over a weekend. It is great. Obviously it's a graphic novel series about Nick and Charlie and their relationship and their friends as well around them, and it's just great. It's so heartwarming and cute, and yeah, so just a little honourable mention for Heartstopper there. Okay, so on with the list. Something I've actually noticed about this list is that pretty much all of the books I have read either this year or last year. I think there's only a few that go further back than that. So basically I've read most of my favourite books over the last couple of years, which is pretty damn cool. So we're gonna go and start with my 10th book, and that is Boy Queen by George Lester. So I really loved this when I read it. It's about a teenage drag queen essentially, and it's such a celebration of like queer love, queer happiness, and like finding yourself and discovering who you really are. I loved it so much. It just brought me so much joy. It was just such a fun, happy story, which you don't see a lot in queer media. There's just so much tragedy everywhere, and I just loved how joyful this was. I really related to the performance side of it all because I have been a performer in the past as well, and it was just really relatable and fun and happy. It kind of just threw me back to like being a teenager, I guess, and the good things that came with being a teenager. Yeah, and I loved the friendship group in it, and Robin, like, he was just such a relatable character. So yeah, that's Boy Queen. So the next book I've chosen is Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. So this is an adult romance that I read at the end of last year, and it's kind of been living rent-free in my mind ever since. It's probably not my favourite romance that I've ever read. As you know, that's probably the Kiss Quotient series, but I loved this. I just loved the whole thing about April like being a fan and then ending up with the like person who plays like her favourite character basically. It's kind of like would have been a dream of like teenage me to meet and like I guess marry whatever the person that like plays your favourite character in your favourite show. I loved all the fan fiction side of it. Like, it was again really relatable. I used to write fan fiction to death when I was a teen and like read loads of it. I just loved it, so I just like found it really relatable in that aspect, I guess. I loved the rep in this by Olivia Dade. Like, it's got fantastic believable characters. Yeah, again, it was just like a really fun story, and also like it touches on to like heavier topics as well, but it does it in such a way that it's like great. I don't know, I have jelly brain. It's so hot today. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore with these books. But yeah, that was Spoiler Alert. I really enjoyed it. So next I've chosen This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron, which I think is the most recent book on this list that I've read, and I absolutely loved this. I devoured it. Like, it was just so so interesting. So this follows Bryces, who has this like plant magic, and she inherits this old house, and there's like all these family secrets, there's Greek mythology in there, and it just had all the vibes. Like, it was just such a good read. I loved Bryces as a character, and I loved her family, and like all these like the mystery surrounding the house and everything. There's a great supporting cast as well, and like all the secrets that are going on with them. Bryces is adopted, so we find out a lot about her birth family in the book, and it's just like all the ooky spooky vibes, I guess. This is probably what I would describe as like black girl magic. Like, this is the epitome of it, I think, and I just loved it so much. It was just so good. And it's queer, of course, as well, which was also a plus. But yeah, I just loved it. I loved Bryces, I love her mums, and like the town and everything in the house. It just like had American Horror Story vibes. It was just really, really great. So taking a little bit of a different turn, the next book on my list is Uzumaki by Junji Ito, and this is a horror manga about a town that gets infected with spirals, and I think it's probably my favourite Junji Ito book that I've read so far, at the very least. So this is such a cool concept, I think. Like, it's such a simple idea, and it starts off with one of the residents in this town who sort of develops an obsession with spirals, and it literally spirals from there, where he like tries to turn himself into a spiral, and then like anything in the world that has spirals, like for example one of the bones in your ear is like a spiral, like snail shells have spirals on, like anything like remote like that starts to develop in the town, and eventually the town like constructs itself into a huge spiral at the end. And it's kind of just following this one girl who lives there, who's seeing the town literally go mad, and it was so enthralling. Like, I could not put it down. I think I basically read it in 2 sittings because it was just like incredible. I really, really want to reread it because it just literally makes you feel like you're going insane. There is some bits in it that is just like mental. There are snail people. I'm still not over the snail people. It was just so good. And it's weird because it's not like a straight story. Like, each chapter kind of feels like an episode, I guess, where something different happens to the town, but it doesn't take away from the feeling of it at all. Like, there's the end pages here. It's just mental, and I think that's why I loved it so much, because it was just so bonkers. It was just crazy. So the next book on my list has been a book that's like, I guess, been in my life for a really long time, and it's Dead Until Dark by Charlene Harris. This is the first book in the Sookie Stackhouse series, which was a series that I was reading for literally years. I think I only finished it in 2020, and I'd started it before then, way before then. This is following Sookie, who is just like your average barmaid in this really small town, and in this world vampires have come out of the coffin, and like everybody knows that they exist. And so Sookie meets a vampire in the bar that she works in, and they kind of develop a relationship with each other, and the whole series kind of just spans Sookie as she meets all these different like creatures, like vampires, werewolves, shapeshifters, fae, goblins. Like, there's all kinds in there, and I guess each story is like a murder mystery in its own as well. True Blood is obviously based on this book series, which I had watched most of before I started to read the books, but the books hold a really special place in my heart. At least the first few do, which is why I've chosen the first book, because I just think it's timeless. And it's not really like my favourite book in the series, but like it's where everything started, and it's where Sookie met Bill and Eric, so it's kind of just like my favourite for that reason. When I read this, I can picture everything that happens in the show pretty much. Like, it's so true to the book, and that's something I love about the show as well. And the things that they changed in the show were usually for the better. Like the character Lafayette, he is my favourite, and I really wish that he had had a more prominent role in the books. But I love this series. I do wish that it hadn't been as long as it was. Like, I think it just took a downhill turn after maybe like book 6. Like, it didn't need to be 13 books long. Most of the books in this series I think I rated 2 stars, but the first 4 I would definitely say are solid contenders, and I love Dead Until Dark so much. Okay, so now we're kind of entering like my favourite book territory. So I guess the first one of that is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth, and this is a historical fiction about Cameron Post, and it's kind of just her life story. We follow her from when she's about like 8 years old, and I think we see about 10 years or so of her life, and it kind of ends with her in a gay conversion camp. So when she's a kid, it starts on the day that her parents die in a car accident, and at the same time that's happening she is kissing a girl, and she kind of deals with all of this guilt her entire life, that maybe if she hadn't been kissing a girl her parents might still be alive. But it's also kind of like a queer coming of age story because Cameron is gay, like she can't deny that, and she has this infatuation with a girl at her school as well when she's a teen, and she lives with her aunt who then eventually sends her to gay conversion camp. I just loved this so much. I found it really relatable for some reason, even though a lot of what happens to Cameron has not happened to me. I just found Cameron a really relatable character, I think, and the fact that it's set in the 90s as well was just like a really nice touch. This just did things to me that I just haven't been able to stop thinking about. Like this book, it just, yeah, it was like an awakening, I guess, and I just loved it so much. I really want to reread it because it's so good. Everything about it was just great. I watched the movie as well. I was so disappointed with the movie because the movie pretty much only focuses on the gay conversion camp, and that's literally only like the last third of the book, and the first 2/3 of the book are like my favourite bit, and like you barely see any of that in the film. So yeah, if you have seen the movie, I would definitely say read the book. It is so much better, as is usually the case, but like it is so much better. Like I just loved it. This copy was sent to me from Liam, so thank you Liam for sending this to me. Is one of my all-time favourite books. I read it from the library originally, so that's why I didn't have a copy of it, but I'm so glad that I finally have a physical copy of it, because when I eventually get around to rereading it, I'm going to be tabbing and annotating the shit out of it. Like I can't wait to just put my mark on this book. So next is a book I read last year, and I loved it so much, and I loved it enough that I think I want to get a tattoo of a quote from this series at least, but I'm a little bit apprehensive because I don't have any tattoos. So yeah, anyway, it is Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the first book in the trilogy, and although the third book is probably my favourite in the whole trilogy, this again, it's where it all started, so that's why I would choose to like keep this book over the last one. It is up there with Finn looking down on me. I loved this as well. Like it was so fun, it was so exciting. So this series, like it follows a group of the dregs, I guess, of a great graduating class of like space cadets. So we're following, at the very start of this, we're following Tyler, who is like a great pilot. The night before the draw for like picking the squads, can't sleep, so he goes out just flying, and he stumbles across a spaceship that has like been sending out a distress signal, and he meets this girl Aurora and rescues her, and because of all of this stuff that's going on he misses the draw, so he ends up with the dregs, and they're kind of like a band of misfits, I guess. They all kind of don't really get on at the very start of it, and like they're trying to go out on like their first mission together from the academy, and like it's just all going wrong basically, and Aurora stows away on their ship, and it kind of sets off a chain of events that ultimately leads them to trying to save the universe. I just loved this series so much. Like I loved it more than Illuminae, definitely. Like Illuminae was the first series I read by Jay Kristoff, by Amy Kaufman, and I loved it, but when I read this, like I didn't think it could live up to the hype, I guess, of how much I enjoyed Illuminae, and then when I read this, it was just so good. Like I just loved it. It was so exciting. The first book has like a heist plotline. I described it as a crossover or something. I can't remember what I said, but it's kind of like Star Trek meets Ocean's 11 meets something else, and I can't remember what the third thing I said it crossed over with was, but it's just so fun, so exciting. It's got like end of the world vibes, like it's just so good. I cannot recommend this series enough. I love all of the characters in it. Like they're just so fun, and my baby Finn, like I love him so much. Like I just yeah, he's like my baby. But this series is just so good. Yeah, I just love it. Okay, so next is a book that everybody has probably heard of before, and it's actually one of my favourite books of all time, and it's Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. This was like the first series that I read that kind of helped me develop my reading tastes now. Like, I've always been a reader ever since I could read, but this was like, I guess, the series that really made me love to read. So obviously you guys know what this is about. This is about Bella, who moves to a new small town. She meets Edward, who is a vampire, and it kind of just sets off this chain of events, and they fall in love, and like people are trying to kill them. I just love this series so much, and again, I've chosen to keep the first book because it's where everything started. I have reread it countless times. Like, these are my original copies that I had back when I was like 12 years old. They are dog-eared to death. The pages are really yellowed. The spine is very bent and cracked because I've just read it so much and I loved it so much, and I still do. Like, I'm not ashamed to say that. And I know it's not like the height of literature. I know it's not very well written. I know it has loads of problems with the plot, with the characters. I acknowledge that, and I just don't care. I think because it's so special to me, and I was so young when I first read it, like, it has the nostalgia behind it. I do like continue to love it to this day. I want to reread it again at some point. I've watched the movies countless times. I went to the midnight screening of Breaking Dawn Part 1 as well, where they had like the marathon of the first 3 films as well before it. That was an experience. I loved it. I really wish we'd had like the IMAX screens at my cinema back then, because it would have been great. I love Twilight so much. It is just really special to me, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not ashamed to say it. I am a Twilight stan. Deal with it. Okay, so the second book on this list, or like the 8th book, you know, not the 8th, the 9th book. Numbers. Basically, the runner-up on this list I read this year. You guys probably know what it is already, but I've said that. It is firmly like one of my favourite books of all time, and I kind of knew it was going to be a favourite book before I even read it. Of course, it's House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas, the first book in the Crescent City series. I loved this. I read it in like 2 sittings. I read the last 500 pages in one go. I sobbed almost the whole way through it. It just emotionally broke me. I love this book so much. It is just so good. I had a hard time choosing between this and Echo of Mist and Fury for this list, but this one definitely, like, it takes the cake. I love it. I just love it. This follows Bryce Quinlan and Hunt Athalar, who kind of are paired together to solve this murder mystery case, because Bryce has a personal connection to it, and Hunt is basically like told to be her bodyguard. It's set in this high fantasy world where it's like an urban city, and like everybody's like, there's fae, there's werewolves, there's vampires. I love the world it's set in. I love the plot of this book in particular. I didn't like the plot of the second book as much, but the first one, I just loved the plot so much. And I'm not much of a murder mystery reader. Like, the only murder mystery I've ever read was the Sookie Stackhouse series, but I loved it. Yeah, and there is so much thought behind this. Reading Sarah J Maas's other series as well, because they're kind of all, like, the worlds and the lore are kind of all interconnected. You can see the thought behind it, and it's just so clever. And and I love Hunt and I love Bryce as characters as well, and the tension between them as romantic partners is fantastic in this book. Like, it's just really good. I just really loved it. Yeah, just talking about it makes me want to reread it, but I'm trying to resist doing that because at the moment I'm still reading the Throne of Glass series and I'm rereading the ACOTAR series, so I'm like, I don't need to reread this as well. Basically, I think this year so far I have read probably enough Sarah J Maas to cover like each month of the year. I don't know, but yeah, I love this. It's just so good. It's just really good. And the last book on this list, can you guess what it is? After all of these books, do you have an idea of what my favourite book ever is? I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, you've had your second, so The last book on this list is of course Nevernight by J. Kristoff, which is my favourite book of all time. I only read it, was it last year? Yeah, oh my god, it was only last year that I read it. I read it in February and I just loved it so much. So I'd owned the first book for ages before and I like kept putting off picking it up because I thought, well, A, what if I don't like it? And B, like what if I do like it and then I have to get the rest of the books immediately? I actually ended up picking it up because I just bought the second and the third book before I read this one, and it was a good idea for me to do that because I read all three of them during February, like back to back. I love this series so much. So again, I've chosen the first book, even though the third one is my favourite. I've chosen the first book because this is where it all starts. So this is following Mia, who is a assassin, and it's basically like an assassin school setting. Mia is training to be an assassin. I love all like the trials that they'll have to do at this assassin school, and it's set in this like medieval Roman type world. I just loved it so much. It's so good. And there's like a shadow cat called Mr. Kindly, and he's just amazing. And the thing, I love the way this is written as well. Like J. Kristoff's books kind of always have a little bit of a gimmick, I think, and this has footnotes. I think that was one of the reasons why I was so resistant to picking it up initially, because it has footnotes and it's kind of like a weird, jarring way to read / write a book, but it works for this series. Trust me when I say it works. The narrator is a character in themselves, so it just, the way the story is told is just so good. I just love it, and I love Mia so much. Like, she's everybody's favourite little murder bitch. I just love her so much. If there's one book or book series that I could recommend to anyone, it's gonna be this one. Like, everybody should read this. Everybody should read this book, okay? It's my favourite book. I love it. I just love it. And I can't fit it on top here, so we're just gonna put it there. So that's my stack. That's all my books. Those are the 10 books I would keep if I had to get rid of all of my other ones. Oh my god, what a concept. Honestly, like, I hope that's never a thing, that I can only keep 10 books, because honestly, like, but yeah, these are definitely the 10 books I think that I could just reread again and again, because they're just so good. They're just so fun and they just make me so happy. So yeah, that was it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to do this tag, then just consider yourself tagged. You can say I was the one who tagged you, and let me know like if you do this video, so then I can like watch it as well. Thank you again for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks again for the third time for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon with a new video. Bye.